See, I've been waiting on that time. Feel me if you've been waiting on yours. That moment, it's close. It's close.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Fighter's Block, the #1 MMA and boxing podcast run by comedians from the DC area. My name is Joe Gilpin, joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Jesse Rivas. Put yourself over, Mr. Jesse Rivas.
I'm doing great. I cannot wait another. We've taken a little bit of a break, but I'm glad to have my therapy back. My joy, being able to talk about what I love most, fighting.
I am so amped. Jesse Rivas. First of all, we should mention, we have filmed in the Fortress of Solitude. We have done the Dot Comedy Studios podcast. Today, we are recording for the first time ever from two separate Fortress of Solitudes. This is exciting.
Yes.
Usually we like to be in front of each other. That's when the best dick jokes get made. That's when the best fight analysis is, I think, when we can see each other and give that energy. But today, we just had too much going on, but it was still amazing fight week stuff. We got to get together and talk, Mr. Jesse Rivas. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. Do you want to start with the news that's going on right now? Something's going on. This is breaking news, even though this is the day before we drop, but it's breaking news right now. Manny Pacquiao is coming back to boxing.
So you're not even going to wait for my consent before you just plow forward here. Okay, I get it. If that's how we're going to be.
I'm excited. It's the return of one of the kings of the ring of this past generation.
It is exciting. Manny Pacquiao coming back. Every fight could be his last. We thought he got stung up by the hornet's nest, and that might be it. But Manny Pacquiao is coming back. Do you want to let the people know why Manny Pacquiao is coming back?
Manny Pacquiao needs money.
Very badly. Why does Manny Pacquiao need money?
And Manny Pacquiao owes Uncle Sam a lot of money. So Manny Pacquiao needs to lace the boots back up and go out there and make money. But he can't fight in the U.S. He has to fight outside the country. And that's part of the reason why he fought in Australia last time. He's fighting in the lovely country of Malaysia, where they're going to have the fight in the bright, early, wee morning time to be able to make sure that we can catch it at a decent time in America.
I thought that's because in Malaysia, I thought 4 a.m. in Malaysia was like peak time just because of the tourist situation. You know what I mean?
What's the tourist situation in Malaysia?
Who goes to Malaysia except to, like, fuck hookers? 4 a.m. is a prime time in Malaysia.
I thought that was like Thailand and Burma.
It's everywhere in Southeast Asia. Are you kidding me? You go to Southeast Asia, you take a tour. You don't go to one country. It's like a European vacation. You backpack from hooker to hooker. Important. And I assume that's what Manny Pacquiao is going to do. Love Jesus, love Jesus.
Man, see, Manny Pacquiao to me reminds me of Jon Jones because I feel like at his best was the sinful Manny Pacquiao. The Manny Pacquiao who fought Marquez the first couple of times.
Absolutely. Yeah, John Bones Jones, when he's clean, is gonna lose. He's gonna lose rounds and he's gonna fuck up Manny Pacquiao the exact same way. Jesus Manny Pacquiao has no shot against Floyd Mayweather. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I know that Jesus Manny Pacquiao got a lot of props for what he did against Margarito, where Margarito's eye was all messed up, so he chose not to put him away or hurt him anymore, so started going to the body. But we all kind of miss like the killer Manny Pacquiao who just destroyed Cotto in front of his wife and kids.
You know what? I figured out something recently. We're going to get on to John Bones Jones because he's had a week here himself. I think that people are only true fight fans if they can answer this question correctly. And that question is, who should have won and who was right at the end of Karate Kid? Should that guy have swept the leg? Should Johnny have swept the leg? Absolutely. And I think that's what Manny Pacquiao should have done in that fight. He did not, and that was fucked up.
It's crazy. Speaking, we talked about Bones Jones a little bit. There was an analogy that was made between Canelo Alvarez.
Yes, who was having a week
Alvarez
himself.
Recently tested positive for PEDs.
Well, he tested positive for horse meat PEDs, which apparently do not count, Jesse Rivas.
Well, there is something that's been going on in Mexico lately. A lot of the athletes have been popping positive. So it's not even weird that he popped positive, but I know that, it sounds like bullshit.
It sounds like bullshit. I don't think he was really taking anything because, do you have the name of the steroid in front of you? I know people use it to lean out, and people use it basically as a weight-cutting agent, as a weight-cutting steroid.
Well,
I think Tim Sylvia got caught up on something like this years ago.
Here's another thing that people have said about this is the fact that it's not a significant amount that he's got caught for. That popped up in his test.
It's barely above the limit. There is magnitudes. There's what Canelo did down here with the regular people where he's a little bit above the acceptable minimum. And then there's people like Alistair Overeem or whatever that are like 300 times the legal limit. You know what I mean? There's a very low level of a steroid that doesn't make sense to be in his body. And people across Mexico have been testing positive for this particular drug. Maybe he was taking it. We have no way of knowing. But the whole, pleading ignorance
I don't think the fight is in jeopardy. I think it's too much money, and I think it's too easy a fight for Triple G. Because even if Canelo takes whatever steroids he wants to take, he's not going to be Triple G.
Let's ask this question. Is Vegas going to do anything to fuck up a Canelo fight?
No.
Never in a million years. They're going to let this
go. Cinco de Mayo, that's blasphemy.
Yeah, right? They're never going to fuck up a Cinco de Mayo Canelo fight. Never in a million years. If you think this Canelo news is going to affect the fight in terms of preparation, whatever, no way. No possible way. Maybe Canelo gets drug tested 2 more times than he would have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's silliness.
I guess like all the news is boxing right now, because now the question is, who's Keith Thurman going to fight on May 19th?
Is Keith Thurman going to fight on May 19th? Can Keith Thurman fight anymore? What is going on with Keith Thurman? He has been out for so long, Jesse. It is unbelievable how long Keith Thurman has been out.
His opponent, Jesse Vargas, just signed to fight Adrian Broner on April 21st. So that leads us to believe, is Thurman even coming back in May?
I don't think there's any way he's coming back in May. If he comes back, he's definitely not fighting Jesse Vargas. I have no idea who he could fight on May 19th because he's Keith Thurman. He's #1 in the world. His return fight, maybe he takes a Jesse Vargas, a little bit lower level guy, but there's going to be a lot of attention on this fight. It needs a very warm body. I don't know who it's going to be. Unless we just go get Joe Bear. He should fight the Brooklyn Brawler. That's what we should get.
Man, I would hate to be Keith Thurman right now because his body's not cooperating the way it needs to. He doesn't seem hungry. All the interviewers have said that he seems like a different guy now. And then you have Errol Spence Jr., you have Terrence Crawford, 2 of the best pound-for-pound fighters on the planet. Then 2 of your closest archers rivals in Porter and Garcia. They all have a claim for your belt. So there's no easy fight once he's done with that tune-up fight.
They all have a claim to the belt, and they're all killers. They're all murderers. This is not a weak division. This is one of the strongest divisions in boxing. You have to go 11-12 down. You have to get to the Jesse Vargases before you get somebody that you think you might have a little bit of an advantage on. Go down this list. It's all murderers. It's all guys who can beat up Keith Thurman, especially if Keith Thurman is not 100% dialed in. And I know because we saw Keith Thurman 100% dialed in, and he was really struggling to hold on to that #1 spot. It was not dominance after dominance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So who's he going to fight? I don't know. I hope he just gets a warm body so he can get a little bit of momentum behind him because he doesn't have any momentum right now. And let's get him a warm body because if he loses to that person, we know, let's not even bother with the money fights.
You know what I would love to see? What if Broner beats Vargas and he fights Broner in his comeback fight? Because I think he could win that fight.
Oh, yeah. Listen, you're never going to find somebody who I'm like, Keith Broner cannot lose to this person. That person doesn't exist anymore. It used to be Adrian Broner can beat anybody. I think I said Keith Broner. It used to be that Adrian Broner could beat anybody in the world. Now anybody in the world has a shot against Adrian Broner. That actually would be a great fight for May 19th, especially if he makes easy work of Jesse Vargas.
You know what's crazy about Broner? He's still
everything. Literally everything about Adrian Broner is a crazy thing.
He's got this crazy rape charge going on right now, and he's still booking fights, and he's still showing up to these press conferences and doing everything like it's new, like he doesn't have to go to court the next day.
It's almost presidential. You know what I mean? Fucked up, man.
Any news from the MMA world?
Let's get into the MMA world. No, you know what? Fuck that. I don't even want to get into the MMA world. I want to keep talking about boxing because Jesse, we had an amazing heavyweight fight this week. Do you want to get into that?
Yes.
That's what I want to talk about. What are we fucking around with? Okay, we got rid of the news. That's all the biggest news, I think, for the week. John Bones Jones is going to be able to fight again, it looks like. They yelled at him, they shook their finger at him, but ultimately he's going to find a way back to a license probably in the next 18 months, if I had to guess. Is that fair?
Yeah, I can see that's fair.
Okay, I think that's enough to say about that, right?
Yeah, you know what? I've heard some rumors, and I keep hearing more and more rumors about Floyd Money Mayweather coming to the UFC, making his UFC MMA debut.
No. Fuck
and
that.
I'm hearing it's against CM Punk.
No, that's bullshit. There's no way in hell that's ever going to happen.
Do you know how you can market this? This will be a phenomenal fight. This will
I know how you market it. You just tell people it's going to happen. That fight sells itself. You don't have to do anything.
One of the greatest boxers in the last 20 years versus one of the greatest professional wrestlers in the last 20 years in the cage, in MMA. Who's going to win? Who would win that fight? That's like seeing Hulk Hogan versus Mike Tyson in the 80s.
I'll be honest, that's the first fight I've ever heard of where I thought this could be worked. You know what I mean? There have been fights where afterwards I said, maybe this fight, they talked a little bit in the back. This is the first fight we're walking in, I think, that. There's no way we're never going to see Floyd Money Mayweather in a cage. There's no way in hell. Never, 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 never.
Never say never.
I will get a finger up my ass before Floyd Money Mayweather fights in a cage. There's no way.
They should do a Cyborg versus Floyd Mayweather. I think that'd be a good fight.
Let's fucking do that. Let's get crazy with it. Let's put Floyd in there with like Stipe Miocic. Let's go nuts if we're going to do that.
Imagine how they build that up. They start building up cyborgs like, you're a woman beater. I'm fighting for all the women that are out there. And people are like, that's a woman?
I'm pretty sure she has like bigger balls than you, guy. I mean, if we're going to do a gender test here. Let's talk about this fucking heavyweight title fight, Jesse Reeves.
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes, I'm excited. This has been the biggest fight since Joshua versus Klitschko.
I was about to say, 2017, we had Joshua Klitschko. 2018 starts us out strong. Deontay Wilder, Luis King Kong Ortiz. 10 rounds. We get the knockout from Deontay Wilder. The place is going electric. It was a classic fight feel the whole time. Ortiz is doing damage. Deontay Wilder has to weather the storm. It's razor close. Deontay Wilder pours it on, gets the knockout in the 10th. Give me your thoughts on this fight, Jesse. Did you watch this fight? What did you see?
I thought this was a phenomenal fight. I thought Ortiz was winning the fight, and he rocked Wilder a couple times. And I think the fact that he rocked Wilder and couldn't put him away is part of the reason why he developed a bigger fan base after this fight.
Adversity. It's all about adversity. It's Hulk Hogan. People wanted to see Hogan, had to get beat up for 10 minutes before he hit the leg drop. Deontay Wilder had to get rocked here to keep building that fan base.
Although he still has the haters. It's still... Everyone says, oh, we love Deontay Wilder. And then they post the clips of, yeah, but he has no technique.
He has no technique. He has no chin. He came in too light. He did come in very light. He came in too light. He can't really box. I've never seen somebody score this impressive a win and the haters double down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Everybody before the fight. We have a mutual friend here in the DMV area who talks a lot about fight sports. And he posted on Facebook like, Ortiz is going to win by knockout within 4 rounds. And then Wilder wins in 10. And he posts on Facebook immediately like, see what I told you? Deontay Wilder got rocked. Deontay Wilder would be meat for Joshua. He doubled down on every claim he's ever made. And I think that's going on with a lot of boxing fans. People are not giving the champ the respect he deserves.
Yeah, they posted a video of Charlie Chaplin boxing. They were like, Deontay Wilder working on his technique.
Meanwhile, all Deontay Wilder does is win by knockout. I know he doesn't have clean technique. He doesn't have beautiful, sweet science boxing. But at the end of the day, he's fucking winning. At the end of the day, he is making adjustments, and there is smart boxing going into these fights. Am I wrong here?
No, and what I love about Wilder is he's a star. Everything about him, his entrance is a star quality, his look is a star quality, and he produces exciting fights and knockouts.
He's what we need. I'm not kidding. In the heavyweight division, he's going to sell as many tickets as Anthony Joshua.
I mean, look at the Spilka fight. Like, that was the fight where we saw a great knockout. I thought he killed the guy.
Yeah. Oh, my God. And what's it called? The first round knockout he's coming off of. Jesus Christ.
So that was a great victory. Do you think that they're going to try to push another tune-up fight before the Joshua fight? Because I heard they want to get him in against Big Baby Miller first.
Miller's been around, and Miller's definitely chirping. I think they're ready. How long are we going to call each other out? How long is Joshua going to call out Wilder and Wilder call out Joshua before we can just say, fuck the tune-ups? Because Deontay Wilder is not improving fight to fight. He's kind of been the same guy for at least the last 2 or 3 years, right? We haven't really seen that much improvement from him. This is who he is. Anthony Joshua is who he is. Let's get him in there and find out what happens. Good things happen when the best fight the best.
You know what, though? I will say that they fucked up. They really messed up because I feel like Joshua versus Parker is 50-50.
That's a more even fight. 50-50 is that's generous to...
No, the reason I think it's 50-50 is because when you see them against the same competition, Parker's always looked better. The only reason why people think Joshua is so much better is because he actually fought Klitschko. But you got to remember that Parker hasn't had that opportunity to fight that elite level person. But given the same competition, Parker's always looked more impressive.
Parker's always looked good, but styles do matter, and I don't think Parker has a style that is going to challenge Joshua as much. I still see Joshua with an edge in that fight. It's a live fight, to be sure. Joshua Parker is a bad motherfucker. I could be 100% wrong. I see that as still edge to Joshua.
And there's a lot of boxers that trained with both that are picking Parker for the upset, like David Price.
David Price said that?
Yeah, he said that Joshua has a weak chin and he's going to lose to Parker.
No fucking shit. That would be intense.
And then Parker, he called that out in the press conference. So, his team said that, and he also called Joshua a steroid abuser.
Really? Anthony Joshua called a steroid abuser. I mean, he's bodied up. He looks amazing, but, I've never really heard that before.
I think, some interviewer said something about, you're full of confidence. Is and Joshua looks full of confidence. He said something about, no, he's full of steroids is what he is.
No shit.
He got in a lot of trouble for it, but it got under Joshua's skin, especially because they're promoting the fight and they got put out there.
I can imagine, yeah. That would piss me off too, but we'll see. Isn't it crazy if Deontay Wilder ends up fighting Joshua, that's the one time Joshua will test positive? You know what I mean? Because we're on a 4-fight streak where Deontay Wilder is fighting people who literally just pop positive for a performance enhancer.
How pissed off would the boxing community be if Parker wins by knockout?
Oh my god. We'll never hear the end of all the hot takes. Boxing Twitter will shut down for 3 days, and it'll come back like Jesus on the third day, resurrected, stronger, more in tune with itself.
Here's the thing. Would Parker get the big push, though? Would he get that kind of Jeff Horn kind of push where he becomes this megastar on that side of the globe?
I think the smart thing to do would be then to plug Parker into the Joshua spot and strap the rocket to him. My experience watching boxing tells me that they will punish him by giving him probably a Joshua rematch and then another tough fight and then the money fight of Wilder.
I can see that.
That's been my experience. Deontay Wilder, amazing knockout power. How would you tell someone to fight Deontay Wilder? What kind of style is going to be good? Because Ortiz was supposed to have a style that would really flourish against Deontay Wilder. This was supposed to be the bad style matchup for Deontay Wilder.
I think a Tyson Fury, that gypsy style, I think would give Wilder a lot of problems.
Are you being serious?
Yeah.
No, because I could see you saying that as a joke, but I do agree with you. Especially those long-ass arms. It's going to be hard for Deontay to break through that.
Yeah, it's people sometimes sleep on Tyson Fury because,
because he's a crazy person who looks like he is... he looks like a... Lately, especially before he slimmed down a little bit, he looks like one of those goblins that steals children in the night. I don't say that as he specifically looks like that.
Yeah, he's getting in shape and he's calling out Joshua and he's calling out Wilder and he's calling out all the champions and he's saying he's the real champion. You got to be the man, you got to beat the man. And I mean, I kind of believe that he's back on it, and I don't know if he'll be the same guy. I would hope he takes the tune-up fight, but it wouldn't surprise me if he fights Joshua next and Wilder has to fight Big Baby Miller or Dylan White, or vice versa. Maybe he fights Wilder next and Big Baby Miller or the rematch with Dylan White happens with Joshua, assuming Joshua beats Parker on the 31st.
I think if I got... Let me ask you this. So I think we're in agreement. There's no fight that's going to make Wilder versus Joshua more important or more exciting, right? We're about as excited as we can get for that fight. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So if you got to book it, we have, I think, 2 options. Either we're going over to the UK for a big, big arena show, or we're going to go to Vegas and we're going to do it up right in Vegas. Which one would you prefer?
See, I would say Vegas because I know the Brits will fly to Vegas.
Right, exactly, and we're not going over there.
Americans aren't going to the UK for this fight.
I say, man, let's go fucking all in. Let's do 4th of July in Vegas. 4th of July weekend, whatever that ends up being.
Oh, I forgot to mention this. David Price is fighting Povetkin for the right to fight Joshua next.
Oh, okay, but that can always be worked around. We're going to get into Mikey Garcia later, so trust me, mandatories are mandatory until they're not.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else on this fight before we move along? Deontay Wilder, tip my hat to you. A lot of people are looking down on you. But
also this week, if you guys want to check out a heavyweight prospect who actually beat Parker in the amateurs every time he fought him, Junior Fa is fighting on ESPN, so definitely watch that fight if you're bored, because it's basically gonna be a showcase fight.
There you go. If you want to see a fucking dope ass knockout, watch that. Jose Uzcategui picked up a 9th round TKO over one of the Durrells, the less good one. Not as controversial as last time, where we saw an LA riot break out after the fight.
See, I think Andre Durrell is a little bit more of the skilled fighter. I think he's also not as physically, which is weird to say because his brother had cancer, but he's also like the least physically gifted.
I think he's not as aggressive as his brother. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
His brother, shows off a little more. His brother pushes a little harder, I think.
Yeah.
But Durrell got beat up in this fight. This was an ass whooping.
Yeah.
This was an ass whooping. Uzcategui.
I've always felt like Andre Durrell had a weak mind. If you think about the last fight that they had, I feel like he really exaggerated to get the DQ win. Like he really exaggerated the penalty. He stayed down, and it kind of he's done that.
We're gonna fucking talk about that later too. Trust me.
Yeah, and the thing about it too is he did the same thing too when he fought against Arthur Abraham. He took so much time off that I felt like he used the Arthur Abraham disqualification to get out of fighting Andre Ward in the next round of the World Boxing of the Super Six. My bad.
I 100% appreciate that. Uzcategui is at super middleweight. A lot of the best super middleweights right now are tied up in the Super Series, the World Boxing Super Series, or they're just coming off the World Boxing Super Series.
Yeah.
So how do you see him fitting into this division? He's going to get a bigger fight next time. Who does he fight? Could he fight the other Durrell?
Well, I think that this fight here is this is the number one contendership to fight the winner of the rematch between DeGale and Truax.
Oh, no shit. Okay, there you go.
So DeGale and Truax are rematching for the title, and Uzcategui is the number one contender for that belt.
I think that's a pretty sweet spot to be in. I think he's a very live underdog against both of those guys.
Yeah. Well, if Truax wins, that definitely just means DeGale is done. I don't think Truax is a world champion. I feel it's more DeGale felt the damage of being in those fights with Badu Jack.
Hey man, wars matter, and Badu Jack is one of the most underrated boxers in the world. Oh my god!
He will be fighting Adonis Stevenson in Canada later on this year for the light heavyweight title. He's going up a weight class.
If you're not excited, keep in mind that you know who Adonis Stevenson really is. If we're gonna tie everything back to professional wrestling, which we always do, he's the honky tonk man. He's the honky tonk man, just holding on to this Intercontinental title as long as he fucking can. Defending it only when he must. And this is one of the few defenses that really does, matter a little bit more than the usual Adonis Stevenson fight.
That's because that weight class is so stacked that it's hard to get an easy fight now.
But he still finds a way. Okay, I think that's it on Uzcategui. Do you want to talk about this Bivol fight? Dimitri Bivol coming through.
Wow, that was impressive. This is the same weight class, light heavyweight. This is Sullivan Barrera, who's been a thorn in the weight class, has been dominating and destroying every future star that's come its way, and Bivol actually passed the test with flying colors.
Absolutely. Stopped him in the 12th. We got to see a lot of Dimitri Bivol, I believe from Russia. 13-0, 10 knockouts. Outboxed him, outpunched him, out-strategied him. Everything you wanted to see out of this guy, you saw. It was awesome to see.
So we have Vazic and we have Berdabiev that we've talked about how great they are and how they're new up-and-comers. They only have 13 fights. Given this guy has less than 20 fights, would you put Bivol against them in the rankings?
That's a little much, but he did just beat Sullivan Barrera, who's super hot.
Yeah.
I think that he's going to be in the top 10. I would still put him under those guys, but yeah, he deserves some consideration on that tier right below those guys, I think.
It's a crazy weight class of really talented fighters with very few fights.
It's incredible, and it's a lot of, not for nothing, if you're in Cuba, you're fighting every other weekend, and you have a professional record that's like 212-3 and 35 draws. I feel like the people coming out of Russia have like 8 fights each.
Yeah.
These guys are getting like 4 fights, and then they're saying, fuck it, put me up against the best. And I think that points to a lot of gym time, and not necessarily a lot of competition time, and a focus on technique. And we're seeing that when they fight. We see really good technique from these guys.
In the main event, we also had Kovalev against his friend, and he beat the shit out of his friend. I don't even know who that guy is. I've never heard of him. The only thing they kept saying is he beat Berdabiev in the amateurs. That's his only qualifying trait that put him into the main event of an HBO show.
What if they literally got to the last round of that fight and they were like, "Oh, it was by forfeit. They didn't actually fight." Yeah, he just didn't show up one day and they're like, "I guess you win." Great.
There was an insane amount of hate towards Kovalev. Did you notice that?
Yo, Kovalev should go heel. Why are we keeping Kovalev face? Come on, he's a guy who killed a guy. He would be a hitman if he were not wearing boxing gloves.
Yeah.
Come on. So these were two friends who fought. One beat the shit out of the other. If you were to step in there with a good friend, if you were to step in there with me, would you lay the ass whooping, or would you kind of do this Manny Pacquiao? I found Jesus. Let's coast
You
this out.
gotta lay the ass whooping because you don't know what's gonna happen.
You gotta lay the ass whooping, and I would do the same to you. I'd be trying to whoop your ass. You'd be trying to whip mine.
Yeah, you don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know the guy can come back, got a second win. We've seen it before. Pat Barry did that one time. Pat Barry had sympathy for, what was it, Crow Cop?
Yeah.
And
Oh, big time. Yeah, knocked him down
out.
3 times in the first round, but it let him back into the fight. He got stopped in the 3rd round. Pat Barry was the king of that shit. Pat Barry always had the most bizarre fights I've ever seen in my life. Do you remember the Congo fight?
Yes.
What the fuck was that? That was sloppy oil wrestling. I have seen 2 girls at a bar oil wrestle, and it had more grace than that recovery and knockout by Czech Congo and Pat Barry. Incredible moment, incredible fight. But if you watch it, it really is like 2 oiled up deaf guys trying to grab each other.
It was a great highlight video. It was a great highlight video of what could be possible.
It's a wonderful highlight video. Speaking of highlights, Chris Cyborg Santos had her highlight reel this weekend. Did you get a chance to watch this fight?
Yes, I did.
Chris Cyborg Santos beat up Kunitskaya, knocked her out in the very first round, showed off the power, did show a couple of chinks in her armor. Am I right?
Yes.
Showed a couple of chinks, got taken down with a very sloppy single leg that I've heard Chael Sonnen do 6 hours of material on at this point. That single leg pissed off Chael Sonnen to no end. He went on Facebook Live immediately after to talk about why it wasn't a good single leg. It was unbelievable. But for all the holes in her game,
she got rocked and then tripped her, basically.
Yeah. For all the holes in her game, Chris Cyborg Santos is still out here collecting skulls. Are there people in this division? Can they bring in people who are going to be able to push her? Because she's already beaten all the people that you would want to see her against.
The only person we want to see her against is Amanda Nunes.
Amanda Nunes and that one Australian girl.
Even that, we're still skeptical. We haven't seen her in the UFC cage yet.
Yeah, we only want it because we've been told we want it. You know what I mean? Have you seen any footage on that girl? I've seen 2 of her fights. I wasn't blown away. I wasn't left thinking.
Tattoos.
She's all right.
Yeah, she's all right.
She's all right. Is there anyone left in this division beyond Amanda Nunes? Do you see anyone who can come up to this division and really challenge?
No.
I'm going to throw one name out there, and she actually just signed to fight Amanda Nunes. Ironic because it's a very similar style. I think Raquel Pennington's defense, her grit, I think her striking could really make a fight with Chris Cyborg Santos very interesting. I think she's a little grittier and more clinch-heavy than somebody like Holly Holm or Jermaine Durandame. So I think that she could push the fight in ways that they really couldn't. So I think that would be an interesting fight down the road that might get overlooked.
You're only marking out for her because she pimped out Tisha Torres. That's the only reason you're marking out for her.
Listen, if you have the fucking stone cold persona to turn someone gay just because you want to fuck them, you can be a world champion. You got confidence. You got confidence. She can win that fight. Kunitskaya, is she going to be another one of these people that immediately drops to 135, do you think?
She's a big girl. I don't think she can make 135.
No, she's going to finally be the first person to stick around in 145, I think. Finally, we have a division that has 2 people in it.
Yeah, I was going to say that. She's going to be the gatekeeper to Cyborg. If you give her, you immediately get a title shot.
Speaking of gatekeeper, Frankie Edgar. I can't believe I just said that. Frankie Edgar got knocked out this weekend, and it might be the beginning of his slide downward. Brian T.C. Ortega, known for his jiu-jitsu, known for his Gracie black belt and his prolific submission game, he gets the knockout with the uppercut in the very first round.
I will say one thing that impressed me a lot about this fight was the women in attendance at the bar where I was at. I guess since I'm a male, like it's hard for me to realize who girls find attractive. Like there's the obvious people like the Sage North cuts out there,
See, I don't buy Sage. Carlos Condit though is one that always comes up.
yeah, like the Carlos Condit. Like if you lose your girl to like Tyron Woodley or like something like that, you're like, all right, I could see that happen. But when like yeah, when Brian Ortega comes on TV and like every girl stops what they're doing and they immediately start rooting for him over Frankie just because of the way he looks, I was like, really, that guy?
It's those eyes. He's got those deep blue eyes, baby. You can swim in those oceans. He'll let you. He'll let you. How shocked were you? I was amazed that Brian Ortega picked up the knockout. I wasn't amazed that he won. I thought it was a possible fight. I was backing Edgar, considering what Edgar has done to a long list, going all the way back to like the Charles Oliveira's and Tyson Griffins of the world, if you want to go way back. Frankie Edgar has always been the guy to just piss pound these prospects, right? Say that 10 times fast. But this time, Brian Ortega was finally that one that stormed the doors and got the knockout win.
And I think it's going to be a very interesting fight with him and Max Holloway because I felt like Edgar was dominating the striking, but he had the more powerful. His striking was more effective because eventually he knocked him out with it. But it was like it kind of put a statement that he's not just a submission guy; he's got this whole another arsenal now.
Yeah, man. Max Holloway's always shown such holes on the ground, going back to his early career. I know he's getting better, but it's still hard to catch up, and he'll never be as good as Ortega is. He could train the rest of his life. He's never going to be as good as Ortega is now. He's just not. But Ortega, I can see really getting pieced up.
One of the things that helps Max Holloway is the size and reach. He's not going to have that with Ortega.
Ortega's enormous. Did you notice that he looked like one of these 155ers that Frankie Edgar used to fight? He looked like Gray Maynard in there.
Yeah.
He was huge. I think the problem Frankie ran into is, especially after that first guillotine attempt, he was a little gun-shy to shoot back in. And then he kind of absorbed a kick, and the usual Frankie Edgar thing after a kick is to shoot, and I think Ortega was really keying off of that. Especially looking back at the Jose Aldo fights, the Chad Mendes fights, he's done this time and again. I think Frankie kind of came in halfway, stopped at the hips, and moved up to the clinch, which he almost never, ever does. And from there, Ortega just popped him, brought that right hand right under, especially as the taller fighter. It's going to have so much power. And he gets the knockout win. He's going to get the title shot against Max Holloway, I assume.
Yeah, and I think Frankie's done. I know he's not going to quit after this because it's just his spirit, but I would like Frankie Edgar to quit after this.
Wouldn't you? Because, we talk about brain damage. Frankie Edgar is a guy that takes a lot of brain damage in a win.
Yeah.
We talk about knockout losses, but, those Gray Maynard fights, that was a draw and a knockout victory. But he still took a lot of miles. And this is a small guys division. It's a reaction time division. And it's going to be harder and harder for him to get older and older and still do well. I think he should get out now. And he's got to have a lot of chances to make money outside the UFC. He's one of the most recognizable, most respected athletes in the history of the sport. Maybe not recognizable. Respected, certainly.
I was going to say maybe not recognizable.
Yeah, that's a little far. But among people in the sport, Frankie Edgar is held in this gold standard that I think as a coach, I think as a trainer, I think as a training partner, he's going to be in high, high demand, and he can set a really high premium on himself.
So we got prospects to watch on this card. I don't know much about Sean O'Malley besides the fact that he beat the Asian sensation, but I would definitely be watching Mackenzie Dern. I will be watching her. I will be behind the entire time behind her, just rooting her on, just rooting her from behind. I'm 100% on the Mackenzie.
You're digging Mackenzie Dern, especially from behind, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Listen, I get it. Mackenzie Dern, I thought she fought a little bit of a dumb fight, to be honest. I think the weight cut is really hard on her, and I don't think she fought to her full abilities. Mackenzie Dern, I've actually met Mackenzie a couple of times. She's, nice, and she's always willing to take photos and talk to people. Beautiful girl. Her jiu-jitsu really is fucking world class, like you read about. It is top, top, top. But she doesn't have the maturity that you would like to see from a young prospect. I think Sean O'Malley, on the other hand, shows a ton of maturity, despite only being 3 years into being a professional.
Yeah, he looked fantastic. He looked great. I was a little disappointed because the Asian sensation that he beat was such a better promo. The guy really took over like the hype up video for this fight, and I thought that he could be a future star. But alas, Sean O'Malley, the luck of the Irish, Snoop Dogg's boy from the TV show, is actually every bit as good as they said he was going to be.
He's
and
pretty fucking decent, right?
Yeah.
He's pretty good. I'm looking forward to Sean O'Malley and what he can do at 145 pounds. Mackenzie Dern, I think she eventually will challenge for a title if she puts a couple of wins together because they want to push her. You know, she's a very attractive girl. She fights well. She's marketable. She's Brazilian. I don't know why, by the way, they had a translator in the cage. A lot of people have brought this up. I have met Mackenzie. She speaks English. She grew up in Arizona. Like, she is fine. Like, I don't know why they had that in there. But I would like to applaud the UFC because they finally have some prospects that I'm really excited about.
Is Mackenzie 135 or 145?
Oh, she's not 145. She might be 125. I think she's at 135.
Okay, if she's 125, I could see them making her like the star of the division, but there's no way she beats Amanda Nunes.
Oh, you mean the star of the division, like what's her name was supposed to be? Paige Van Zandt was supposed to be. Mackenzie is fighting at 115, which is super light for her. 115 is a difficult pull for her to make. I promise you. Because she is used to fighting at, she's fought at, 55 kilos way back, which is like 125 pounds. But, she bumped up after a while to the 135s, to the 140s, and she started to have trouble making that in jiu-jitsu. But right now, she's 6-0 in MMA.
I don't care what weight class she fights in, as long as she doesn't lose the booty, as long as she keeps those hips and thighs in check, I'm 1,000% a fan, and I'll root for her to win any fight.
I'm being very respectful because one day I might have to train with her father, Megaton Diaz.
Yeah, I won't, but yeah, so I'll talk all the shit that I can.
I fully you're going to be the one on this podcast who talks about Mackenzie Dern's ass. Because there's a reason her father is nicknamed Megaton. He throws people real fucking hard. We talked earlier a little bit about people who were milking. We were talking about Jarrell maybe milking a shot after the bell, an illegal shot to draw a DQ. We had something a little bit like that might have been something like that, rather. Hector Lombard versus CB Dalloway. Did you get a chance to watch this fight? It was a prelim.
I did not, but I did see the highlights.
You did see, okay, so you've seen the ending. Hector Lombard throws a shot that people are arguing left and right. Should it have been a disqualification? We went through this before. The bell doesn't stop the round. The referee stops the round. The bell only signals to the referee to stop the round. And when you're in there, it's your responsibility to defend yourself the entire time. Should this have been a disqualification?
Yes.
Elaborate. So you think he threw the shot after the referee stepped in and said time?
I think he was careless when he heard the bell because the first shot was like borderline, but then the second shot was after the bell.
I agree 100%. We do that a lot on this podcast, but we're both smart fight fans. We know what's up. Yeah, this was an illegal shot all day, and I've heard people arguing against it, but every fighter knows the referee had stepped in. His hand was in the middle of him, and his left hand, I think it was the left hand, was still at his shoulder. It had not really been thrown yet. Maybe he was partway through his combination, but he threw that over the referee's hand. You have to control yourself better as a fighter. Also, CB should have been protecting himself. He dropped his hands too early after he heard the bell, but you need to hold your hands up. Having said that, I do suspect that CB Dalloway milked it a little bit because he absorbed the punch, shook his shoulders and brought his hands back up, and then suddenly it started being like, where am I? What happened?
Yeah.
Did you see that? Did you hear him after the fight? He was going on. There was a lot there about what happened, what did he hit me with, that I don't really see fighters doing when they've been hit with legal shots, even legal knockout shots like that. So I think he did know, hey, this was a shot after the bell. I can draw something here. And CB does have a history through college wrestling, even through his time on The Ultimate Fighter. Do you remember in The Ultimate Fighter finals, he clearly taps out on an armbar. He stands up and is like, what are you talking about? I didn't tap out. And he tried to argue it back.
No, I don't remember that. But
it was way back against Amir Sadollah. But yeah, he's got a history of...
What the hell happened to that guy? Holy crap.
I know, you haven't heard Amir Sadollah in a minute. He washed out. He didn't have it.
He's from our area.
I know. He was from Northern Virginia. I could probably go find Amir Sadollah if I really wanted to, the badass Muay Thai nurse. But, he started losing fights, and I think his heart really wasn't in it.
It's like Frankie Gomez.
I know. Oh, my God. That's amazing.
Anybody who has a shot, go look at the pictures, the before and afters of Frankie Gomez. He's one of the top prospects in boxing, undefeated. Looked phenomenal in his last HBO fight. Disappeared. His trainer hadn't heard from him. Nobody had heard from him. Now he's just like this, He's like this out of shape, fat, regular dude, and there's no way I can possibly see him getting back into his old shape. He's what, like 25 years old, 24 years old. He looks like he's 50 now.
Yeah, and he was a guy that, I mean, I think they would literally, like, tell people, like, yeah, I don't know where, his trainers would be like, I don't know where he is. He hasn't checked in a couple of weeks. That's not a guy who's hungry to be the best, and so I'm going to stop paying as much attention, you know?
Yeah, good point.
Speaking of guys who are trying to be the best, you want to get into this preview?
Yes.
Yes. Do you want to start UFC or boxing? I don't care what.
UFC.
Let's start with the UFC. Coming live from the, I believe from the UK, we have, yes, from the O2 Arena, the heavyweight main event. It's really the only fight we're talking about this week. Fabricio Werdum is taking on Alexander Drago Volkov. Volkov's selling point is that he is undefeated in the UFC, 3-0, coming off of a knockout win over Stefan Struve, and he is 6'7", and he fights like it. He does fight very tall, and he does fight smart.
But who doesn't get a knockout over Stefan Struve?
Accurate. Everybody at this point. Well, Andrei Arlovsky apparently over the weekend did not get a knockout, even though he fought very well. Fabricio Werdum, on the other hand, has been at it. He might be the heavyweight GOAT. He is coming off of 2 straight wins after a decision loss to Alistair Overeem, but this is going to be, I think, his first fight at the age of 40. So he's getting a little bit older. Do you think that Drago has enough for Werdum in this heavyweight main event?
No, I feel like the top 3 in the heavyweight division basically dominate the division, and everybody else is kind of vying for contender status or gatekeeper status. I feel like Volkov is not an elite level heavyweight like Werdum is, and I think it's going to show in this fight.
I feel like Volkov is being very intelligently booked. Whoever is his manager, I think, is doing a good job. They're inching him forward step by step. But let's listen to his UFC career. He's undefeated. That's great. He beat Timothy Johnson, who he had a split decision with. He beat Roy Nelson, who is washed among washed fighters. You know, Roy Nelson has barely got any tread on the tire. And then he knocks out Stefan Struve, who gets rocked with a hard breeze. He hasn't really beaten anyone impressive in this heavyweight division. I just don't see it. I don't see how Volkov can win.
I see Werdum dominating with jiu-jitsu and tapping him out in the first or second round.
Let's not forget Fabricio can strike, too. If you want to talk tall fighters, look at what he did to Travis Brown, a very, capable heavyweight striker who's, I think, even taller than 6'7", and he kicked his leg, worked to the body, kept his jab moving, kept his feet moving, and Travis Brown, over the course of 2 different fights, never got a whiff. I hope Werdum comes out with that flying karate kick again. Fuck yeah. You remember that? That was fucking badass. Yeah, I see Fabricio by stoppage within 10 minutes, probably pounds him out from the mount.
We also have boxing this weekend. We have the return of Mikey Garcia, who wants to make history. He wants to be the 3rd fighter to win titles at 126, 130, 135, and 140. He's going to make history and become a 4-division weight championship in his 4th weight class when he fights against Sergey Lipinets. Lipinets was the guy
Junior,
who was the #1 contender for Ndongo before Ndongo decided to unify against Terrence Crawford. So this is a very interesting fight. How many weight classes can Mikey Garcia actually go up?
I'm looking forward to him versus Deontay Wilder and Luis Ortiz within the next month. I can't wait. It's going to happen. Mikey Garcia has been on this weird upward trend. I think he's chasing money, right? That's the only reason. It's not that his body is growing. He doesn't look particularly bigger fight to fight. He's chasing money, and he thinks the bigger fights are against heavier people, and he's probably not wrong.
And this is a very stacked weight class. When you take away Terrence Crawford, the weight class is booming if you look at it. It's going to be a very good fight. I think, to be honest, I don't really know much about Lipinets.
He's solid, but yeah, he's not on Mikey's level, certainly, if that's what you're wondering.
We haven't seen him against anybody that's great. He's beat the people he should beat. There's no tough task that he's had to take where it's like, okay, this guy has potential to beat like a next big star. But we've also haven't seen any holes in his game because he hasn't fought anyone to show us holes in his game. So he's like this big question mark of how good is he really?
I think that his power is definitely going to carry. I think that his technique is going to carry. I don't think he has the speed or the in-ring IQ to go with a Mikey Garcia type.
And then Mikey's looked nothing but phenomenal, but he's looked phenomenal against smaller people. And then he looked great against Broner, but you also got to remember that Broner isn't who Broner used to be.
Accurate. Something that interested me recently, I was getting in a workout. I am a jiu-jitsu fighter. Might have another pro fight coming up in April, by the way, Jesse. And I was getting in a training session in Virginia with some guys that I don't see as often, and they started asking me about boxing. And the guy they started talking about was Mikey Garcia. And these are not boxing heads. These are guys who are into jiu-jitsu and into MMA. And somehow Mikey Garcia has slipped over into that world a little bit more than we might realize. Interesting, right?
Yeah, I think the Broner rub was a big one too, because Broner has a lot of people watching his fights. He has some of the most highly rated fights in like the last 5 years.
Maybe. I mean, if you
Even
wanted
more, I think 6 years.
We've talked about it. Broner is a great fight to take because there's a lot of visibility, and he might come in completely coked out of his skull. And so you might get an easier fight with a lot of name recognition. I think Mikey Garcia is the beneficiary of that.
So this is the IBF junior welterweight title, but there's a lot of fights that are going to be made to take these vacant belts from Terrence Crawford. Barthelemy moving up. He's going to have a fight there where he's possibly going to win and be the WBA champion soon. We got Terry Flanagan, who moved up. So he was the WBO champion at lightweight. So he's going to be the WBO number one contender for junior welterweight. And he's fighting against the very tough and booming prospect, Maurice Hooker from the U.S. for the WBO. But we have this mini tournament going on with the WBC. So we have Jose Ramirez versus Amir Imam fighting in May for the right to fight the winner of this next fight. Prograis versus Ndongo for the WBC number one contendership. Well, for this mini tournament of the WBC. How do you see this fight going?
How do I see Garcia versus Lipinets, or how do I see Prograis versus Ndongo?
Oh, you didn't give your pick for Garcia versus Lipinets?
I mean, I'm obviously picking Garcia.
Okay, all right, yeah. Prograis and Ndongo. I think this is a tougher fight. It's the prospect. It's the guy who was right below Errol Spence Jr. coming out of Texas at that time. But he's in a weight class below Errol Spence, so they're probably not going to fight for a couple of years. Versus Ndongo, the guy who was second place in the unification fight last year.
That's a nice way of putting it, yeah. If you haven't heard of Ndongo, don't worry. You haven't missed too much of him on the national circuit. This is not a guy who's really well known, despite being very skilled. He's only had, I think this might be like his fifth fight outside of his home country of Namibia, where he, I believe, is the GDP of that country. He's so unknown, he's on milk cartons. And this is a big test for Prograis after the Diaz fight. He picked up the second round knockout win over homeboy Jose Diaz. A lot of power, a lot of speed in that fight. Ndongo, the only time I've ever really gotten eyes on him was when he fought against Terrence Crawford. It's just tough to pick somebody when you see him get knocked out in the second round with one of the most hellacious body shots you've ever seen in your life.
He's a former unified champion.
I know, it's fucked up.
In the UK.
It's fucked up that I'm picking against him, but I like Prograis.
Yeah, I think Prograis, it's his moment. I think this is one of those, they're finally going to spotlight who he is. And I think it's going to lead into bigger fights. I mean, I look forward to seeing some combination of these guys unifying in the next couple of years. I would pick him over Flanagan. Hooker looks very good. If Hooker beats Flanagan, then I don't know where that would go.
It depends on the fight, right?
Yeah, but the
Hooker versus Flanagan goes.
But this is a tournament. The winner of this fight isn't the champion yet. They have to beat the winner of Imam versus Ramirez, which I think is going to be a phenomenal fight. And these four, it's a very good fight. I'm a little bit heartbroken that it's not. Postal is not in this fight. Postal was he's the original opponent for Prograis.
Yeah, he got hurt. He had to pull out. And I mean, you know, it's serious when boxers don't pull out of fights like MMA people. Maybe some MMA fans are listening, like, oh, somebody pulled out. That doesn't happen as often in boxing. Pretty rarely, especially once the fight is signed. So for that to pull out, hopefully Victor Postal is okay. I don't want him to slide even further into obscurity, or he will literally fade away like in Back to the Future.
Mini tournament, WBC mini tournament. You got Prograis in this side of the bracket. Who do you got between Imam versus Ramirez?
Give me Ramirez. I like Ramirez in that fight.
That's a good fight. Ramirez versus Prograis. Who becomes the new WBC champion?
Give me Prograis. I like Prograis.
Yes.
Disagreement?
No. I mean, this.
I love when we're all over each other's balls. Fuck
Imam is underrated. Imam is seriously underrated, but he hasn't had a big fight since that debacle against Granados.
Oh my god, I forgot. Yeah, he hasn't earned a big fight since then. But if he beats Ramirez, he's back in.
Yeah, and Ramirez has done nothing but become an absolute star in his part of the world. He looks like he could be a crossover superstar with his charisma and his fight style. So
Jose Ramirez, by the way, his part of the world, Jose Ramirez, clearly Irish. Continue. You're racist if you assumed anything else.
So moving on, we have some fights on ESPN. We have Oscar Valdez finally getting his big name, his big step-up fight against Scott Quigg.
Yes, we do. And there's a fight that kind of reminds me of Garcia versus Lipinets in a way. You know what I mean? It's a little bit slower, a little bit bigger of a fighter versus a smaller, more technically skilled fighter in Quigg. Is that fair to say?
I think it's fair to say.
When you're Quigg's people and you're a little bit smaller and you're going in there against Oscar Valdez, who has this kind of power, is there any part of you that should be considering the cautionary tale that is somebody who is back in the winning column now, by the way, Kell Brook, and what happened to Kell Brook versus Triple G, and how he went up in weight, not going to be a big deal, it's just one fight. Suddenly his face got rearranged and he needed surgery. You
know, when I play this fight out actually in my head, I actually would give the skill advantage to Valdez.
Really? I would think Quigg is definitely a little bit more skilled. Disagree?
It's tricky. It's tricky because I would say Valdez's offense is more skilled than Quigg, but he definitely needs some help on the defense.
Yeah, Valdez's defense, I mean, that's such a big part of it. You know, boxing is defense, ultimately. It's the art of not getting punched. This is a guy who definitely takes some shots.
But he is definitely a bigger fighter than Quigg. Quigg is moving up. I know he's trying to do the Frampton track where he's trying to move up in weight to get with those big names like the Santa Cruzes and the Maurezes. But do you think that he has the build to, well, he is bigger. Do you think he has the build to make it to this weight class? I mean, I feel like he was bigger than Frampton when they were both in the same weight class. But, you know, do you think he could fill out to this weight class at his age?
You know what? It's weird. He was bigger than Frampton when they fought, but I think Frampton has more of a frame to fill out to a higher weight class. I don't think Scott Quigg is going to come in nearly big enough for this fight against Oscar Valdez. I think he's going to be in trouble. I'm going to pick the bigger, more offensive man in this fight.
Yeah.
I like Quigg. I think he's great, but I just don't see him being able to punch his ticket in this fight. Disagree?
Yeah, and it's going to be a good win for Valdez, and hopefully that builds up to getting him in that mix, because he's kind of been outside of that mix. You know, you've had your Maurez versus Cuellar. You had your Maurez versus Santa Cruz versus Frampton. You have this whole mix going on, but you're missing Valdez, and I feel like this is finally going to, you know, propel him to that level. He's been a champion, but he's kind of gotten good as a champion, as opposed to like solidifying himself as the number one person in the weight class.
You know, Jess, we've been talking a lot about World Boxing Super Series and just like slobbering all over its dick. Season 2, I would love to see the featherweights in there, and these are two guys who could fill into that weight class. In fact, I'll go even one step further. I'd love to see the featherweights, and then you bump up Rigondeaux into that, and just make it a fucking super tournament that we all get to chomp on for a little while. How much would you love that?
I would absolutely love that, and I love the fact that it has great UK representation because nobody does fights at the UK. Have you seen the fights that have been held in the UK for the World Boxing Super Series?
They've been
phenomenal.
The best fights.
Look at these names. All right, so you got Valdez, right? Then you have Maurez. Then you got Frampton. Then you got Santa Cruz. Then you have Gary Russell Jr. And then you have Scott Quigg.
Nonito Donaire. You got Joseph Diaz. We can throw Rigondeaux up there if we want to get, you know, real spicy with having people move around. There's a lot in this weight class.
It's a great weight class. Very underrated.
I would love it.
And the best are fighting the best already, so you got to appreciate that.
And there's a lot of people who, you know, contractually and politics-wise, it is possible for them to enter a tournament of this kind. So I really, if anybody out there from World Boxing Super Series gets a hold of this, please take a look at these featherweights for the next season of World Boxing Super Series. That is on my Christmas list for this year.
Absolutely.
Do you have anything else for the people this week? Jesse Rivas, do you have anything else for the people this week?
Nothing else. How about you?
I think I'm good. Put yourself over, brother.
Follow me on social media, J Rivas Comedy on Twitter and Instagram, and Jesse Rivas on Facebook.
Dope. Do you have any shows coming up?
Yes, I will be in El Golfo, which is in, I know I just said that like a complete sellout, El Golfo in Silver Spring on the 24th. It's going to be a great show. You're going to have Candace Saunders. You're going to have Danny Rolando. It's going to be a good lineup. Ryan Nazer. So come out, check that out. I'm going to be doing a showcase in Arlington at Summers on the 30th. And besides that, catch me around. I'll keep posting stuff on social media.
Hell yeah. For anybody out there who wants to come see me in the DC area at the Arlington Draft House, 2 shows Friday, 2 shows Saturday, they might be sold out. I'm actually going to be opening up for and hosting for Josh Blue, former Last Comic Standing winner. I'm pretty excited about that.
Congrats. That's going to be a phenomenal show.
I'm fucking so excited. 4 shows with him all weekend. I can't wait. Jesse Rivas, for everybody out there, please get a hold of the podcast. Hit that subscribe button. Find us on social media. Just search Fighters Black. You should be able to find us. For anything out there, we're going to be talking about it. We'll be back next week here on The Block.